to get it going. Oh, 1 second here.
Sure.
Oh yeah, it takes a while for it to stream. There we go. There we go. Awesome. Awesome. We are live. Okay, cool. Okay, and let me X out of that. I got the echo here. I don't need to see the live here. Okay, cool. Cool. So yeah, Echo Park. Yeah, I used to hang out there for a minute. I actually used to live in downtown LA and had a lot of friends in Echo Park. I found it to be an interesting place until I got a gun pointed in my face. I was just trying to get some tacos, and that
Yeah.
sucked.
And I think I moved there shortly after it was really bad. I moved there 2009
Mhm.
and uh, was often told like 5 years ago this was a very different place. Those sorts of things. And now I actually visited for the first time since I left. I left in 2013. I visited for the first time in January or March. And Echo Park now is even further from that, you know.
Oh, for
All
sure.
all my favorite old dive bars are now like, filled with microbrews and open windows, painted white, and
Yeah,
it's a different place.
it is a different place. Yeah, yeah. Some of the old bars are still there. It's still got the shortstop. Still
Still got the
has, yeah. I mean, it's still got some cool spots. And even back then, when I was hanging out there, it wasn't really that bad. But just every now and again, you piss off the wrong person, wrong place, wrong time. Sunset and Alvarado just not trying to have some tacos.
down over at Taco Zone, Tacos
Yeah.
Orizas.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I love
Yeah.
the tacos.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a cool creative space, though, for sure. Echo Park is got some cool stuff. So tell me about your music. I mean, when did it all begin for you as far as when you first started playing and all this? When did you first start playing instruments?
My first instrument was the saxophone. I tried a few years ago. I cannot make noise on a saxophone that is pleasant. Um, I was 8 years old and I just like school band, they came around, showed the instruments you could play, and I went home and asked my parents if I could play the saxophone. I have two older brothers who both did piano lessons as kids and did not take to it. So I think my parents thought I would be the same. So they never offered that to me. And I think this was, for me, the first time playing an instrument was seen as an option. So I did that at first. And then I was 11 or 12 years old. And my older brothers, I used to like borrow their CDs all the time and, sneak their tapes and try to hear what they were listening to. And I borrowed an Aussie, rest in peace, CD from him. It was the Speak of the Devil tour, which he did shortly after Randy Rhoads died. It was all Sabbath tunes. He didn't want to play any of the Aussie stuff. And
Yeah,
I heard War Pigs and immediately was like, I want to play the guitar. Um, so that was it for me. I learned War Pigs on my mom's nylon string guitar. And if they told me, if you practice, if you show that you're really interested, we'll get you one maybe for Christmas or something. Um, and that was the beginning. Like once I knew a few chords, making my own song was easier than learning someone else's song. And like there was just something in me that just wanted to make things. So I learned a few chords. I started writing really bad songs for a long time. And yeah, that's what got me on my journey.
that's awesome. That's awesome. When you first started playing the guitar, were you obsessed with it, playing it every day? after school, before school, weekends, night.
Yeah. Yeah. Any chance I got, a lot of my high school experience, like both my parents worked. I guess I was kind of a turnkey kid. And a lot of my high school experience before I had a car, before I could go do whatever I wanted, I just go home and I just sit on my back porch with my cat and I just play my guitar. And I think around the same time I got my guitar, one of my best friends got a drum set. And then we made another friend who played guitar. So like we had a band when we were like, you know, all pretty fresh. The new friend had been playing guitar for a while, but we were all very fresh. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just three friends getting together, making bad music and just having a blast. Um, and that was, I mean, I had the same band through all of high school, and every Sunday we had, you know, half day band rehearsals. Um, we would just, as much as we could, play together, get in the basement, play some songs, book shows at like local VFWs or churches, whatever we could find that would let us play.
Very cool. What kind of music?
Back then, it was screamo, I guess, new metal screamo. Very different from what I do now, but that's, I went from Sabbath right into like Deftones. Uh, Korn came out, Limp Bizkit came out. This was the early 2000s. Like we were just neck deep in Ozfest. Almost, I think we all went to like six or seven Ozfests.
Right on, right on. And what were those experiences like when you first started performing? Like your first few shows, what did it feel like?
Oh, man, very first show that we did in the public, I have on VHS, and I've been converting these all recently to digital, so I've kind of relived it. It was a community Christmas event, and it was nerve-wracking first the first few times, just very nervous, but so excited to like be there with friends and have that experience with friends and like share the journey together. Then we started doing like there's some battles of the band started popping up in our area, and then we started booking our own shows. And it, I think the nervousness doesn't fully ever go away, but you kind of get used to the anxiety and the, excitement. Um, but yeah, watching these videos, going back and watching it and like reliving those experiences, I could definitely feel, you know, the tightness in your stomach before you go on. Then you get on, you get through the first song, and after that first song, you're like, oh, people are applauding. It's okay, we're doing all right.
Yeah, yeah. First song or two, you break it in, and then you're like, okay, okay, we're live. We're gonna
Yeah.
keep it going. You know, everybody's having fun. This is cool. That's great. And so, at that time, were you doing covers, originals?
We were doing all originals at that time. That
Nice.
was, we didn't really do like every once in a while we'd play a cover song, but we were just really focused on writing our own music, and we did record a couple albums in some basement studios. Didn't know
Right
what to do
on.
when we finished. Burnt copies, gave them to our friends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know that feeling. And so tell me about, your first songwriting experiences. I mean, were you coming up with guitar riffs and writing on top of those, or what was your process?
Yeah, my process has definitely honed over the years. Back then when we started, um, it was a lot of getting in a room together and just, someone would be like, I got a riff, or the drummer would be like, what if you played a riff like this? And, or I've got a drum part. And we'd kind of, piecemeal our songs together that way. And then for vocals were always last. I didn't want to sing. No one wanted to sing in the beginning. So eventually I just kind of was like, all right, I'll do it. And lyrics would always be last. I would just kind of, we would play the song a bunch. I would try things over it. We didn't have the wherewithal. We didn't have phones everywhere. We couldn't just record everything. So it was a lot of like in the room hammering it, or I'd take it home and I'd play the guitar riffs and just write it and bring something in a notebook and try it. Um, Sometimes I'd come in or someone would come in with like a full song, but a lot of it was just the group in the room throwing ideas back and forth.
Right on. Right on. And what was it like playing those songs live for the first time, having people hear your music?
Exhilarating. It's such a joy to be able to pour your heart into something, create something that you feel really passionate about, that you're proud of, and then be able to share it with people, especially when you get a positive reaction.
Most definitely. Yeah. Total thrill. So from there with the high school band, where'd you go from there?
I went to Emerson College for recording and production. My parents were big on me going to college, so I figured I'd do something connected to music. My brother had gone to Berkeley, um, and I'd seen how that shifted his taste in style, I think, towards jazz. Not that that happens to everyone. I know better now, but at the time, as a 18-year-old kid, I was like, "Ah, I don't want anyone messing with my vibes." So I went to Emerson for recording. I worked in some recording studios in Boston, and unfortunately, the band parted ways at that time, and I started kind of doing my own thing. And then my brother and I started a band. We moved to LA. I worked in East West recording studio out there
Nice.
for a songwriting duo um, called Wax Ltd. And got the vibe for like being a studio guy. And I love producing, I love engineering, but at the end of the day, I knew I wanted to tour. I kind of got into music because I saw it as my ticket to travel and experience the world beyond where I lived. So the itch to tour was there. So I left the studio, started touring the Southwest, eventually toured across the US and started touring over in Europe, and then moved back to the East Coast, started a freelance production business, and here we are.
Right on. Tell me about the first tour. How'd that come together?
Uh, I had lots of emails and spreadsheets. Uh, I didn't know what I was doing. I must have been mid 20s at that point, and I just kind of, we didn't have Spotify yet. I just would go online. I worked a desk job in an office, so don't tell them, but I booked like my first three tours while doing my job, and got both done. Got to get your work done, but lots of emails, lots of just like looking at other similar musicians and where they were touring. Uh, Solo, I still kind of do this sort of like at the time I started to develop this, what I guess became to be known as like Shaky Graves setup with a suitcase, a tambourine, guitar, vocals, harmonica. And I was developing that at the time. So that first tour was maybe like 5 dates: LA, San Diego, Vegas, Scottsdale, Arizona, um, I think Flagstaff. And it was just whatever I could find. Uh, Friends I knew in Scottsdale helped me. I found like a random golf course in Flagstaff that was going to pay me. And I was like, man, what they're paying me is going to cover all the hotels for the tour. It's not the best gig, but it's gonna, you make sacrifices.
That's interesting. Why wasn't it the best gig?
That was like a cover gig. It was a golf resort. It wasn't like so now in my life there's two types of gigs, right? And not that that's a bad gig. I still do those gigs.
Hmm.
But there's gigs that you do for your art, and there's gigs that you do for a job. And there's definitely crossover between those two. It's a Venn diagram. It's not 100 one way or the other, but um, typically like those general business GB gigs, you show up, they're expecting you to kind of blend into the atmosphere, provide ambience for the people who are hanging out, but it's not your show. You're not
Right.
there, you know, playing all your originals with all eyes on you and people paying attention. You're kind of there, you're providing a service.
What kind of cover songs?
Um, I can't remember what I was doing back then. Uh, it's building on the repertoire that I have now. It's a lot of like classic rock, top 40 indie folk, some pop stuff, some
Mhm.
alternative rock.
I know. That's cool. And it was just you solo, or you had the band with you?
That was just me solo.
And I think that's creative how you put it together. But it's like you said, one gig can pay for the rest of the tour, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a compromise, but it's like you said, there's a duality to it. And I think there's a lot of that goes on. I was just talking to my buddy Reed Foley a couple weeks ago. He does country. He does a killer cover of Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. Killer. It's like I told him, I was like, dude, it's like your song, man. Like, I'm not saying it's better, but he really owned it. I was like, oh, bravo. But I get a sense that he kind of does something similar to that where he tours. He started off doing covers. That was like the basis of his training and playing in Florida when he first started. But he does originals as well. But I think in the same tour, some shows are cover gigs, some shows are originals, and you get a hybrid of both. So I think that's clever how you pulled that off.
thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think especially when you're starting, when you're developing that sort of thing, it's kind of just about getting the gears turning. However you can get the momentum going, you just start to do that. I think it was actually that tour when I was in Scottsdale. I met this other band I was opening for, and I was talking to one of them and asked them a very LA question, being like, "So what do you do?" And they're like, "This." And I was kind of like, "Wait, what do you mean? Like, you're living off of this? This is your job?" And they were like, "Yeah, play a brunch on a Sunday, play some cover tunes, do like Friday, Saturday nights in bars." And that was the first time I ever heard of that as someone's job. So that was big for me when I moved back. I started doing that like 150%. Like I moved back, I just started going into every bar that had music, dropping my card, talking to whoever was booking. Um, and while I was building my freelance business, that was like my 100% job. I was gigging 5, 6 nights a week, especially here in the summertime. I lived in a beach town. Like I could work so much, and it was all, cover tunes. But then that at the same time, I had time during the day to work on my own material, write my own material, record other bands, and record my own music and get a band going and that sort of thing. Um, like I said, I still do those gigs. It's still a regular part of my income. I've come to love it because there's so much great music out there, and like you get experiences. I had a night recently, I was playing a restaurant dinner time. One of these situations, you're like total background music. As one woman is leaving, she came up to me to say thank you, and she was just like, "My sister died in October. Her favorite song was Into the Mystic by Van Morrison, and you played that." And that just means so much to me to hear that song. And whether it's my song or someone else's song, being able to share that experience with someone, to connect with a human in such a deep way, is that's just like the beautiful thing in the age of AI and all technology. Like that, having that moment is special.
You made her night by doing
Yeah.
that, you know, and music moves people. That's so cool. I really like that. So, I mean, you built up your repertoire. And the other part about it too is that these songs you're doing, you're choosing the songs. So these are songs that you like first and foremost, right?
Most of the time, you take requests, you learn
Yeah.
songs, and you're just like, this isn't that good of a song. But hey, it's try to find joy in something, and usually there's something to learn from every song.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I mean, they've taken the time to write it out, produce it. There's a lot you can pick up from it. How to, make a song what's a great song structure? What's a great arrangement? Because there's something about it, whatever it was that made it a hit, and it's probably something different for everybody. But for the ones that you like, it's like, why do I like it? That's one of the biggest things I've learned over the past 4 or 5 years. Is like, why do I like this song? Is it because of the vocals? Is it because it's got a great guitar lick? Is it the song structure is very neat and catchy? But there's always something, you're right, that you can learn from it. Um, Hey, but going back to that initial tour, I find that so interesting. What else did you learn from that when you were booking yourself with similar artists in those different cities? I mean, did you feel like you were able to start to grow a fan base from that first tour?
Um, I think it's really tough. It's really tough for me to remember. Um, Definitely like connected with people. I think now after touring for years, I've learned so much, and like it really takes returning to a place repeatedly and connecting with individuals, connecting with people, especially on an indie level. If you've got tons of money for marketing and stuff like that, that's a different story. But on the indie level, in the way like grassroots level, the way that I've done things, it has really taken connecting with individuals and repeatedly returning, creating an avenue for communication to build a fan base, because so much of it is more than just building the fan base. It's like nurturing, it's relationships. Just like every other relationship in your life, if you don't ever call your friend and they're always calling you, eventually they're probably going to stop calling you, especially if you never show up.
Right.
Um, so I don't know that I learned that right away the first time, but I picked that up over the years.
And what would you say now is the key to successful touring, booking your own tour? What's the key to, getting the most out of it?
Being present, definitely being present while you're there, like 100, a million percent. Um, when I was younger, I had a friend who played bass in a lot of touring bands, and he told me this story where he was brought into a band, and like in the band dynamics, his role on the tour was party dude. It was like play the show, play the show and everything. Then after the show, he was the one. His role was hang out. If they're crashing with people, hang out with the people they're crashing with. Stay up every night, party. He could sleep as much as he wanted the next day. He didn't have to have any responsibilities during the daytime. And that was his role, was connecting with people and sort of being this like ambassador, right? Other people had other roles. There was driver, there's like person who's in charge of budget and food. Everyone had these individual roles, and his role was like connecting with people. And since he told me that, like my touring has largely been either solo or as a duo. And when he told me that, it didn't click right away, but a few years later, like I accepted the fact that, like, dude, you're on this solo tour, you are all those responsibilities. And a huge part of it, like that really opened my eyes, like staying out afterwards, talking with people, meeting as many people as I physically could until I was mentally and physically drained from human interaction. Just meeting people, having conversations, listening to people, just being 1,000,000% in the moment and connecting. Because that's the thing that next time I've gone to those cities, those people come back because those people see my photo, my name, whatever. They follow me. They remember the moment that we had together. And that connects more than the music. Of course, if I were a terrible musician, we probably wouldn't have had that moment. Maybe we would have, I don't know. But still, I feel like some people would be like, that guy was great. I want, want to go back, even though I don't like his music.
That is fantastic advice, man. That I can so see it, and it's so dead on, and it so makes sense. First of all, the guy, his role is the roller party dude, but it's so true, right? I mean, you need a band ambassador, or if you're a solo artist, you need to be the ambassador to connect to people because it's beyond just the music. It's connecting to you and basically making friends and connecting to them and keeping the friendship going. I think that makes so much sense. I mean, there's so many bands and artists, they do a show and then they check out after their set. And what are they really getting out of it? I mean, okay, great. They did a good performance or what have you, but if you're not connecting to people, what are you really growing?
And I think now more than ever, that's going to become more important, like with the Velvet Sundown or whatever that AI band was that came out, they got 350,000 Spotify listeners. Like that's happening whether we like it or not.
Right.
And I think now more than ever, this human connection is going to become more and more important because that's something you can offer that a robot can never offer. And it's like I think about like my favorite artists who I've had the chance to meet, and like one was this guy Matthew Logan Vasquez. Saw him earlier this spring. He played an incredible show. Talked to him for a little bit afterwards, and I just left being like, I'm gonna go see that guy every time he's in town.
Right.
And
Right.
it's because we're able to build that connection, and then you feel like, as a fan, like you're on the team. You're not excluded. It's not like a, you know, um, I can't remember. It's not a one-way experience. It becomes a two-way experience.
Reciprocal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
No, that makes so much sense. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed since COVID times, people really yearning for connection, especially the past year or so. And maybe I'm crazy, but I just feel like I've had more interactions with strangers, just random, store, restaurant, what I just feel like people are like, you know what? I want to connect. Have you been noticing the same thing, particularly with, especially with your music?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's 100%. Maybe I think I've been thinking like a lot of it's been coming from me, but it probably is going both ways. Because I know I
Yeah.
came out with 2019 had my best touring year, and the States in Europe, everything was growing. 2020 was looking great. Rug got pulled out from underneath, and I didn't tour again until 2023 because I didn't know if it was going to be, the financial move. I was like, am I going to spend all this money to go out there and no one's going to come to shows because people aren't ready yet? I really was nervous about all of that. So by the time I went, I was just like, it it flipped a switch in me that was just kind of like, I'm going to meet every person I can. Like I think it sparked that even more. Um, and maybe, yeah, maybe other people also were more open and that kind of fueled the fire too.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's, I just feel like, especially LA, because you've lived here, LA can be it can be a friendly place, but it can also be kind of quasi chilly. A lot of people are in their own bubble. They're very focused on their career, which they should be. But sometimes the interaction is not there. But I have particularly noticed the past year or so, I just see a little bit more fire from people that they just want to connect. They're tired of being alone, and I don't know. Maybe it came from COVID, being isolated all that time, but. And you're so right. That's just the one thing AI can't do. I mean, a bot can come up with crazy stuff, but it cannot make that human connection, at least not for the foreseeable future. And there's going to be a long time before it gets there. But I find that interesting. Tell me more about 2019, that tour, and then the comeback in 23. 2019, you said was a fantastic year. I mean, tell me more about that tour and Europe and all that.
Sure. Well, I started touring in Europe in 2013. Um, I did a couple tours with a booking agency, record label. Then in 2018, I signed a deal with them. They released my first full-length solo album, did 2 months of touring in Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. And at the time, my now fiance was starting to perform with me, and we were starting to tour as a duo. So 2018 was her first tour, and we were kind of like figuring out, like we get along, we work together a lot, so we get along really well. It wasn't like we didn't have to deal with the dynamics of two people sharing tight space and traveling together a lot. But it was more like honing the act as a duo and working out the dynamics of like show business mode, who does what. And 2019, that stuff was all locked. We did um we did two runs. We did a spring run down the East Coast to North Carolina and back, and we did one in the fall too. And in the summertime, we did uh, just a month over in Europe. And our dates, the shows we played were better. Um, you know, Doing the two runs back to back, we were like seeing return people. We were building fan bases in these little pockets, and we were seeing higher guarantees, and had all these things lining up for us. Especially Europe. Europe is pretty much where I tour now. Um, I haven't quite built back the States yet. And yeah, things were just growing, and I was seeing how we were going to make 2020 even better, and plans were in place. So then, yeah, that all fell apart, obviously. And, I had a few years to mull it over and look over numbers. And as much as things were growing in the States, touring in the US is somehow more expensive than getting to Europe and touring over there has been, or
Wow.
just that much less profitable. Um, so since then, like we've stuck to regional stuff in New England and once a year started going back over to Europe again for, a month, 2 months. And it's taken a little bit to get the gears turning again. Like I think this year we're about to leave in a week. Um, this year will be my eighth year. So 2023 was my sixth. So I had built some connections, some friends who helped book dates, helped me get things going. Um, some venues that we've just become, tight with because of these. Like we play the show, then we hang out until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And like we've gotten to know these people as friends now, like gone out on their boats with them and like spent the day with them before or after a show, taking them out to dinner. It's not just always they're like, let me treat you. Like try to pay it back and try to create this reciprocal friendship and just be a friend to these people. And they've helped us so much along the way. Now, every year that we go out, we meet new people, someone introduces us to someone knows a better venue we should be playing at, or whatever it may be, an artist we should collaborate with. Um, so it's just really about staying open to those possibilities and trying to say yes to everything.
What happens when you say no?
You get some sleep. I don't know. I really do. I try to say yes to everything that I can. Um, some of the collaboration stuff vibes don't necessarily work. So of course there's always, and not every gig is the right gig to play. But when it comes to opportunity, it's the success is the combination of luck, opportunity, and being ready and being willing, like being open. If you're closed off, if you go to the show and you play the show and you pack your gear and you just leave, or you go sit in the corner, you're never going to meet that person who's going to open a door for you.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's really, you got to be open, you got to be ready to say yes to things and just, you're going to be tired. You're probably going to be hungover sometimes, but like just we're here once, you get this opportunity to experience life for what we know one time. And, you know, there's people out there who want to like show you a glimpse of their world, and what a beautiful thing that is.
So true. So true if you just open up yourself. Think of the great words of William Shatner. He said, just say yes. His
Yeah.
motto, you know. And so, no, I very much agree with that. What would you say the difference is in working the American crowd versus the European crowd? What's what are the nuances?
Language is definitely one. Uh, you know, I don't know that it's so much a difference between the nationalities, more as the types of venues. That's what has meant the biggest difference for me, especially as a solo artist. You know, I used to think that, man, I go over to Germany and people just listen, which is true. Germans are very polite and they do listen in a different way than a lot of American crowds. But when you find that listening room in the US, like Boston's got Club Passim is a great one. Um, it's set up more like people are at tables. It's not a crowd milling around a bar or high tops, and people are sitting and listening. So it's more about the type of venue. Like since then, I've played bars in Germany where people are, at their bar table, they're drinking with their friends, they're talking with their buddies. You're playing, there's people who are listening, there's people who are not listening, which that to me is the most common American venue scenario. There's people who are into the show, there's people who are maybe not so into the show. They're into the vibe. And like all of that is is great. Um, but it exists everywhere. So I think it depends on the type of venue you're in, the type of show it is. Like when I'm doing full band shows, we're a rock band. It's not the type of like sit in your seat and just sort of sit back and take it all in. But when I'm playing like a singer-songwriter venue, it's more about the song, it's more about intimacy. So those generally breed a more attentive audience.
Very much so. So the Germans are intent listeners. Is it what's up with that?
I really do think it's just they're so polite. I think that's a real part of um German culture. And I think that that sort of comes into, especially when you're in like a songwriter venue, you're being polite not only to the performer, but to the people around you. And no one wants to be that person who's, talking over the artist and being shushed.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. Kind of like shows at Hotel Cafe. I'm sure you've probably played there. It's cool room vibe, and everybody gets quiet because they're like, it's the focus is on the songwriter, the singer.
And it's an intimate experience. Like
Very cool
I
spot.
I love those shows on both sides, because I think for me, um, and my fiance, we talk about this a lot, how like a really good song is like telling a secret. Like a really well-written song is telling a secret. Like you're bearing a part of your soul that you might not bear, in a regular conversation. And to be in those types of environments where someone, like the quiet around you and just the performer exposing themselves, being vulnerable, like it's just, it's a very special thing that, I've in person only shared with like a handful of people in my life. But as a musician and as a listener, I've shared that experience like for my entire life.
Most definitely. And what would you say is the key to keeping up with the fan base? Is it texting, emailing them, social media, like, letting them know, hey, I'm going back to this place, performing such and such date. And what's the key to maintaining that connection?
Yeah, for me, I do email, not as much as I probably should, but I do shoot out emails and I do social media, Facebook and Instagram are the two that click for me. I know a lot of people do all of them. After a while, I just started to feel like I'm going to do what feels good to me. I'm not going to do things that don't feel good because at the end of the day, I want to love every part of this. There's going to be work that you don't love, but I I like to think some of it's in my control. I don't know. And then yeah, I have like a few people who I stay in closer contact with because we've developed these friendships over the years. Um, One of my friends actually has been talking to me about doing a WhatsApp, trying to do a WhatsApp group where people can just join and then I can just shoot out, hey, going on tour, here's the schedule. And I haven't done that yet. It's been an idea that I've been thinking about because I do see, especially in the grassroots nature of this, um, the benefit that could come from back and forth. You know, hey, I'm starting to plan tour for these 2 months, gonna be hitting these areas. Then maybe someone reaches out and goes, I'd love to host a house concert. Or, hey, I've got a new venue that popped up. Or, hey, there's this band that I love in my town. You should come, just I see the ability to create more of a back and forth. Instagram and Facebook, they're great. You can comment, but I don't necessarily see the same type of back and forth happening a lot. It feels very much you post a thing, people might comment, a few fire emojis. Cool.
No, you're right. You're right. I think that's a fantastic idea. And you hit what my next question is going to be, which are house concerts. Have you done those? And what's your, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love a house concert. Um, I still do them. We have we have two that we do in Germany every year. Same houses, and it's like same crew of people that get together, and I think for them it's a reason to throw a party. It's a reason for everyone to get together. For me, it's the joy of getting to see a bunch of people at once and, see a lot of familiar faces. And they always bring new people in. Um, but I also love new house concert experiences, places I haven't been. Last year I did one, and um, you know, a big part of traveling for me is food and like local beer. I love just like experiencing an area through those things. So I played this house concert. It was a beautiful night, backyard, sunset, and then we're all just hanging out. And I started talking to people. I started getting tips of what foods to try and what places, like what beer to look out for. Um, then people are asking me about where I come from, what food is good there. When they go there, what should they try? What restaurants? Um, and so yeah, like you hang out and that's where these friendships come from. Like in a venue, I can see it's a little bit more intimidating for someone to come up and talk to an artist. Oh, they were just up on stage with lights and amplification and all this fancy stuff. But then you do a house concert, and depending on your instrument, I just do the guitar, harmonica, totally unplugged, and it breaks that barrier down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I recently read an article about the All-American Rejects. Just did a tour, just house tours. I think they would do venues in between. And I think it's brilliant. Absolutely. You really get to know people. And also the advantage, and maybe you could tell me more. It's like you do a house concert, and then the next night you're playing a venue. I mean, how better to warm up and bring the crowd the next night to the show, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, they're like always sandwiched in the middle of a tour. So it's kind of like a nice like night of respite where it's like, oh, I don't have to do the microphone thing. I don't have to like set anything up. Don't have to like deal with lights. It's like a relaxing experience. It's a little break. It's like a refresh.
Yeah, yeah. Man, that's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, I could totally see that. And like I said, it seems to me that that might be the ongoing trend. are outside your normal venues. Pop-up shows seem to be that's really exploding, and people want an experience versus just a show. You know,
Yeah,
very
and I mean,
cool.
when I was in LA, I was talking to one of my buddies who plays bass out there, and a lot of the local venues have been closing. Like a lot of the like the smaller, like Echo's still there, Echoplex, like the mid-tier venues are still there, but like the stepping stones, you're a new band, you're coming in, a lot of those small venues are closing. So hopefully new bands keep coming and they're going to need somewhere to play. And I would love to see that sort of revolution of bands just figuring it out, playing wherever they can.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you get a national touring act like All American Rejects. They're doing it. I think it says a lot. And you're so true. I mean, there's a lot of venues that have been taken away from LA. The Derby. I don't know if you remember that one. That's gone. That was classic. I mean, it's like from the 1920s, hangout bar. And now I don't know, it's probably some restaurant or probably some condos. I mean, and it's just like, okay, you got LA, one of the biggest tourist spots in the world, and they're going to come to see condos, the whole city.
Yeah. The Satellite, that one's gone. That was one of my favorites.
It's gone. I didn't even know that. Oh, bummer. Bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even larger venues like the House of Blues on
Oh yeah.
Sunset. Yeah.
Yeah.
Condo developments. What are they going to do? Tear down the Whiskey and the Roxy and
I feel like the whiskey will stay forever, right? Like I'll be so I don't I never played at the whiskey. I went to a few shows there. I know people who have. I've heard it's all pay to play. I I get that it's LA. It's not pay to play. It's you got to sell tickets, and if you don't sell enough tickets, you pay the difference or you don't play. Um, so it's like a venue when you know you're going to bring in a crowd. When
right.
you're at that level and you know you're going to fill the room. Um, I'd be so shocked if that place like that's an institution, you know?
Right. I mean, the Doors. I mean, like, uh, yeah, yeah. I hope it never happens. I hope it doesn't. They're historical. And again, it's thinking about the visitors coming in from out of LA. What are they going to look at? A bunch of apartments and condos and developments. And yeah, I mean, I know there's a business for everything, but I also think we got to preserve great venues and memories and things of that nature, the things that really make a city, or make a town. Well, awesome. Well, Nico, this was awesome for our first Q&A, man, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, Jeff, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, anytime.